So let's just start by saying, Heavenly Creator, thank you for this brotherhood, this fellowship, sisterhood. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And we praise you, Creator, for bringing us together to discuss the most wonderful revelations concerning our brother Prince, who is departed, dearly departed, but has left us with the musical intelligence of divine evolution.
Thank you.
And we thank you for the opportunity to look into this beautiful work and to see the revelation that people have missed thus far. So thank you. We bring the Creator in and all the blessed angels to protect us and guide us in this exercise. Thank you so much. In Yeshua's name, hallelujah.
Amen.
Amen.
So I guess let me just start. Mark Robertson here is an extraordinary Australian filmmaker and child protector, in a sense that he's essentially working on a variety of programs in Australia to take youth who've been potentially damaged or troubled into a situation where they can learn to rap and express hip-hop brilliantly and express their emotions and basically have that vehicle of music be a form of salvation for them and resolution for their challenges. Sherri Kane is an extraordinary investigative journalist who has done actually more than any American journalist, certainly if not any journalist worldwide, to expose pedophilia, child sex trafficking, all sorts of corruption in government, actually Capitol Hill, some of the issues of the cover-ups that go on that degrade our lives, literally, and starting with craziness with regard to lust for children. So the issues of pedophilia, as well as some of the most hideous corruption, Sherri has brilliantly brought to light more than anyone. And my brother's James Spencer here is an extraordinary prophet. You're looking at a real prophet, somebody who has done the homework and has been anointed by a calling on his life to actually advance his ministry, which is for the 144,000. It's been prophesied that in the end times, where there's wars, rumors of wars, earth changes, weather changes, and great plagues, which is now, they're all virtually striking. There is a calling for 144,000 humble servants of the Creator who are pure in heart, who are connected to the divine source of sustenance, who then come together to sing a new song in such a way as to instantaneously and miraculously deliver this entire planet back into the good graces of the Creator. And so that's my brother James Spencer. And I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. It's a privilege to be here. I'm very honored to be here, and I think I'm extremely honored because what James has brought into our lives is some of the more profound revelations of Prince, the rock and roll icon and a spiritualist extraordinaire who has left us with something I didn't even realize existed, which is a sermon. This is Prince's sermon, in my opinion. It's an extraordinary blessing of divine revelation and evolution of human consciousness to accept a spiritual presence in our lives continuously, every moment, to be blessed in harmony with divinity. So I really know better people to bring here to discuss this opportunity than these folks. So welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Dr. Horowitz.
When you do hip-hop and you do freestyle hip-hop, that it reflects the brilliance of a divine inspiration that you so eloquently speak about and reveal also in your sermons and your presentations. And I think that with regard to the subject matter today, maybe we should start with you, Mark. You know, you are such a good recording artist in and of yourself. The Churchill Grant has been awarded to Mark Robertson to travel around the world to capture the power of sound in a documentary.
Sound, where you are.
Can you imagine what the world would be like without sound?
sound is ancient. Sound is medicine.
The creation mythologies all speak about sound.
In the beginning was the Word.
Sound and spirit are partners. Everything is vibration. Sound is doing this. It's emanating itself, and then it's creating these harmonics, kind of like nodes.
All ancient cultures tell us that sound and resonance was the source of all creation.
That's what everybody resonates with, irrespective of your color, creed, or religion. Because you feel it in your heart.
He got trapped up in the misconception, but the big gold chain is gonna give him hits. He gonna find out the hard way that the chain in the neck is a pain in the neck.
For hip-hop in South Africa, it's the most influential form of music right now. It brings more people together.
I started looking at hip-hop completely differently. All of these things that are in hip-hop, if you look back at first peoples around the world, that same foundation exists.
In the beginning was the Word. This one is very clear. You see the fear of people for security. You can't even say it's fear anymore. It's a program that is getting programmed every moment. You turn either your radio or your television.
Just put your finger on the role of the global media to keep us in a state of fear, of confusion, of anxiety, of suspicion of our neighbors, just bad news all the time.
You turn either your radio or your television. It's a program.
It is an energetic prison that they are constructing. We are effectively imprisoned by frequencies that are inappropriate, instead of having barbed wire fences and guns.
Or you look in the headlines of the paper.
I trust that as we start to reawaken and remember who we are and what our gift is and what our light song is, that we will fine-tune ourselves and start to sing better collectively in this universal choir.
And so he's just returned from Africa a couple weeks ago, from Mexico actually just yesterday, and he's really on a journey by a blessed grant to discover and discuss and to reveal these wonderful truths about music and the power of sound and how important that is in our own spiritual evolution. So I think maybe I should hand it over to you.
You make you feel makes you feel good about yourself, doesn't you? Thanks for the comment, mate. But bringing that the idea of hip hop and spirituality, I think that as making this documentary globally, what I'm trying to create a link to is between all sorts of sound, and a big part of what I'm trying to link that to is how hip hop, especially in the moment of freestyle, is completely spiritual. So we have two paradigms now. We have rap, which has been quite controlled by the corporations and industry for quite some time in order to feed privatised institutions, to feed corporations, to feed ideology, and then there's hip hop. And in essence, what I call hip hop is the unconscious. It's the flow of words. It's when you enter that paradigm and somebody asks you to freestyle, and you let go all for it, because we have the mind. We have the mind that's dominating a big structure of our life.
Egocentrism, internal dialogue.
And then we also have the unconscious. We also have the connection, which we all have. So when you step into an art, and you step into the act of moving away from the mind and completely separating the mind and going into an unconscious word flow, then you are, in a way, you're entering your own spirit and you're telling your own truths. The hip hop MCs, the proper MCs, the underground MCs, are the old poets of the day. They're the people that would have, that are leading people, the people that are leading different ideology, that are challenging the political system, that are challenging what's going on in this Maya, this illusion of the world that we have. So if you meet a good MC, and when we are entering that circle, that paradigm of a cipher, we are entering that circle on a spiritual journey together, where, like all cultures since the beginning of time, have entered circles in order to celebrate and honour spirituality and create and honour the unconscious. And so when you enter that cipher, you're entering more. You're entering And when you decide, and when you do let go, when you stop thinking about the mind, you're entering the spiritual side of yourself. So there is a massive link between freestyle hip hop, funny enough, and spirituality. When a lot of people would go, oh my God, it's rap music. But no, it's when you take word flows. So we're sitting here right now, you know, that lamp might enhance my mind as let us dance. Understand between this circle we're all just in a trance. But spiritual connection subjects the mind from the soul. But understand us every single moment that we all just stroll. We're all connected in every single way of thing. All come together, all for the great king. Creation is born, understanding the storm. Understand us every single time I'm looking at dawn. But for people, we're the steeple of the earth. No need to rehearse, understand we just serve. But understanding and cause that moment when we pause, we separate mind. Because that's the immersion of the blind. You know, so
beautiful. Yeah.
So
that was
when,
off
the chain right there.
So when you enter that platform where you just sort of just let it go, it's great. It's a different paradigm that you get to work in, and it's like so I've been blessed that on this trip is meeting so many MCs or so many different people that understand this. They understand that, like, as true MCs, they're holding down a paradigm of creating consciousness for humanity, for people, and when they spit, they're in that moment of doing that. So there's a lot more. There's a lot more to hip hop than hip hop. And what we do in Australia is, when I work with kids that are getting in trouble and all that and teach them hip hop, we're working in Australia's way, because when you tell your story, when you have the chance to tell your story, you're dealing with trauma. So if you write about your story, you write about everything that's going on in your life, all of a sudden you're taking that physical manifestation of dealing with your trauma and you're writing it down on paper, and you're starting to go through the essence of it, and to realise the unlimited potential that you have to be able to manifest that reality is all inherent in all of us. But we first have to deal with the problems. So storytelling throughout all ages and all cultures, for Indigenous cultures, all that has been through telling stories and then dealing with them. So when you taught how to step into your greater truth, to be able to use literature, to be able to use words, to be able to use the unlimited potential that you have to be able to create, then you're changing a paradigm. So a lot of it, you think, even like you're teaching hip hop, okay, how's that going to help? But just from me wanting to be an MC, I got off the streets, went to university, became an English teacher, travelled 45 countries because of passion for that. Went back, started music school because I had the consciousness of wanting to something that invested in that I loved, and a consciousness that and paradigm I wanted to move into. So 95% of us don't know what we want, right? So as soon as we figure out what we love to do, and we actually start dealing with things that are going on with us, then we can start moving on. Because fear is always going to come knocking on our arm, and just like self-doubt, this is always going to be there. So it's all about removing that. And when you become a storyteller, you take control of your own story. So this is all something that's very important, and it's about realising, having passion and realising that passion and taking it to other places. So I'm trying to explain a little bit between the connection between spirituality, between ciphers, between that circle we all go in when we're rapping, between the education of it. So I don't know if that all...
Beautiful, yeah, it does.
When you said something about spit, you know, that's a terminology that they use when they're rapping or they're in the flow, they're spitting. Well, when Yeshua spat on the ground and he made spittle of the clay, he says, I'm the potter, you're the clay. He began to form us into the image of who we really are. And he took from that, when he spat on the ground, he took it and he put it upon the blind man's eyes, because we've been blinded and indoctrinated to see God in limited forms of his universe, of the world. We just see him in our ethnicity or in our culture or in our people, but we're all created equal. We were all made equal with the Creator. Right. So he put these coats of skin on us so that we wouldn't recognize, and we would be veiled so that the gates of hell should not prevail against us. Right. So that's all the imagery of what you're speaking about that comes off of the consciousness, because the consciousness, when you rap, there's an awakeness that happens to this generation that we're seeing. When Dr. was speaking about the genius of what he sees. Well, the genius is the genesis of who we were in the beginning, in the origin. That's the gene that is being ministered to. The genius is all of us when we come into the gene, when we come into that atom, into that nucleus of what we all created and formed to be.
Because we are all one.
Yes.
I'm a part of you, you're a part of me, we're all a part of this divine synchronicity. There's no separation. I'm a part of that tree, I'm a part of that. And then when we actually start to realise this division, that there is no separation. And actually in the Bible, it's just so overlooked, it says God is within you.
Yes.
But yet, nobody seems to talk about that. We seem to, so far where spirituality takes you on a paradigm of a church party, it's like, it hasn't gone deeper into the understanding of the metaphoric even understanding of the Bibles and the cultures that have passed down information.
Or the Holy Spirit-filled temple.
Yes.
It's within.
Right.
This is the temple.
Yeah.
It's
And what
a
is it?
vehicle for consciousness, for divine, in Revelation
Come
in
on.
particular, your blessing.
Right. I think we have to like break the agendas and the doctrines. That's what really keeps people apart, separated from one another. We interpret, for instance, the Bible the way we as man want to see it as an individual for our own needs. And that's not the way the Bible should be. I mean, it's about love. It's about, God is about love. It's about the universal communication. It's about music. It's about
528 love.
It's about communion, right?
Yeah.
And we're not, we're kind of separating ourselves because of our...
What is God? God is expansion that is so expansion that some past our parallel. To me, even to speak of God, I could not even have fathom the moment, but it is expansion. When we talk about religion and division, what is the essence? Like a Catholic is different to a Christian, like a Muslim. As soon as we separate ourselves into these boxes and say, I'm right and you're wrong, then we have just created division. We've created the opposite of unification. We've created the opposite of expansion. We have divided ourselves into small insexual beings that we are. Like we have taken our minds and we've put it into these things, saying that it's like, oh, that person's different colour skin than me, they're different, or that person's got a different religion than me, they're different, or that person's, like it is the opposite of expansion. And I think it's where humanity's gone and why they're so sick of religion is because we've created so much division.
Right.
And when we all come back to that notion that we all are one, we are all unified, there is no separation, then that is a...
There's no separation with revelation. Because revelation is what allows us to come together in unity and to become one. Because even in the book of Revelation, it says this is the revelation of Jesus Christ, of Yeshua HaMashiach. So a revelation is something that's being revealed and uncovered. This veil is the skin that we're in. Man, what you were speaking about, man looking at things in their interpretation. But he uses the weaker vessel, which is the woman, which is the womb of the man, because the woman is wisdom. And the man is knowledge. So he says, don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but eat from the tree of life. When I say tree to you, what is the first imagery that comes to your imagination?
Giving us oxygen, sustainability, 528 frequency, life, restoration.
Now, what is your interpretation when I say tree?
It's everything. It's what's come from the ground, also part of the constant. Like I think Earth has consciousness. It's got its own consciousness. It comes out. It's the giver of life. The tree is creation.
Now, what's your interpretation?
When I think of a tree, I think of the roots. I think about the roots, and the roots are connecting to everything, all of us, as all of us beings. Because I even noticed, and so did you, that when there's trees in one area or even in one section, if you harm the one tree, you harm all the other trees. So we keep the trees pure, we keep the trees healthy, you actually secure all the other trees and they live in peace and harmony. To me, trees are harmony, it's peace.
Absolutely.
It's our oxygen.
See how beautiful the interpretation of each of us looked at it differently, but it added an understanding. When I look at the tree, because I see the tree not literally in the form of the imagery, but that is to give us a revelation. So when I look at a tree, when he says you can't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but eat from the tree of life that's in the midst of the garden. Well, that's a prophecy, because we are the Garden of Eden. In the midst of us is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You know what the tree of knowledge of good and evil is? It's your brain.
Yeah, it's science.
Science takes out the mind.
Yeah.
They've taken out the mind, and the brain has a stem and it has a bush. It has a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. She loves me. She loves me not. You know, that's the information, that's the brain, that's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But the tree of life was also in the midst of the garden. You know what the tree of life is? It's the mind of Christ. It's the consciousness being awakened to wisdom. The intelligence rather than eating from the intellect.
And that's the channel, the clear channel that you actually broadcast when you're freestyling hip hop. That's literally the zone, that's being in the zone. And that's really what Prince, in my opinion, that's what Prince's sermon is really about. It's about what you just said. It's eating from the tree of life versus from the tree of knowledge, which is going to put us into this realm of separation and division. And we're going to figure out how AIDS was created, and we're going to figure out how cancer can be cured, and all of these things that take us out of that Holy Spirit flow, which is the essence of healing.
See, it's not just, this is what I was saying, so when we take this right back, it's not just the biblical reference that talks about all this. If you go into the state of Buddhism, it's understanding of attachment, and also the idea of change. The only thing that causes us pain so much in life is attachment, and when we cannot really let go of attachment and change, and the ego, the ego mind, that's why it's in the stillness, that's why it's in the moment. Like we always, like what a lot of Buddhist philosophy will understand as an result. You go into Hinduism, the same, you go into Mayan culture, you go into all these sort of things, so it's like there's
the Native Americans, the Hawaiian, the Aboriginal people worldwide get it. They got that. It was sacred. And what has happened is you have now the tree of knowledge. Science, multinational corporations, we're going to devastate all of your forests, the rainforests in South America, to do what? To feed the world for Monsanto GMOs. This is the insanity, the hypocrisy that has degenerated society to the max now, and that's why we're in the end times, and that's why your ministry, for the calling of the 144,000, to sing a new song in such a way, to freestyle a new song for humanity, to deliver us from this evil.
Well, it's the illusion, really, isn't it? It's like the whole thing is, what we've created is, so you asked me about Vegas before, it's like for me, it's like a man-made prison. It's a mind illusion. When we are walking around, there is so many of us that are walking around as zombies. And slowly, people...
It's the Walking Dead.
It's the Walking Dead. And slowly some people are waking up. And we're waking up, we're starting to realise, I think now there's a massive transference going on in this world, where people are slowly opening their eyes and think about the frequency of what we're uptaking. Like, if people sit in front of TV all day, think about just even like the TV, the frequency that's happening from TV, it's just like, just bombardment with fear.
Right.
Fear, separation, terrorism, boat people.
Tree of knowledge, tree of knowledge, tree of knowledge. Watch me. Be afraid of nuclear war. Be afraid of Korea. Be afraid of the Hindus and the Muslims and whoever else the media wants us to be afraid of, so that they can manipulate, control, and enslave. Fear is degenerative, because there's no faith in fear. What you're talking about, the fundamental essence of where you're coming from when you're freestyling, or when you're anointed in that anointing flow of prophecy, you are in the zone. That's full faith. That's full trust. That is a creator being expressed through you.
And you know, that's everything is being changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, when we're caught up to the third heaven. Because heaven is right here within us. Earth is where we were formed from, but heaven is within. That's the invisible man or divinity that's taken on humanity. So that we can see both of them simultaneously.
Yes, indeed.
But, you know, creating imagery within our imagination at the same time. Satan is not a person. Satan is imagery that comes from the imagination. It's a mindset. You understand where I'm coming from? A lot of people are not ready for this, because the Bible is a prophecy. And that's what we do, is we prophetically interpretate what the scriptures, what is written in the scriptures. Because Jesus spoke metaphorically, allegorically. When you say that an apple doesn't fall too far from a tree, are you literally talking about an apple in a tree? No, you're saying that you kind of like your mama, you kind of like your daddy, you kind of like your brother, your sister. You bear the same fruit that came from the tree that the seed that was planted in your ground produced. Now, so that's how we have to begin to see spiritually, because when I look at anything with the carnal mind, that's who the devil is. To be carnally minded is death. That's why we have imagery with this Satan with two horns and a red tail, with the head and not the tail. So the carnal mind is what has to be destroyed.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? To be carnally minded is death. To be spiritually minded is life and peace. So anything I look at through my subconscious, I'm looking at it with the carnal mind, with the form of God, and denying the power. So everything I'm looking at when I'm eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil is EVIL. But Yeshua's not going to change what I'm looking at. He says, Zacchaeus, what do you see? Where was Zacchaeus at? He was up in a tree.
Right.
Hello, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And he says, what do you see? He says, I see men as trees. Hello, we are the trees that are in the garden.
Right.
But he says, look again, what do you see? I see men as trees walking, because we walk by faith and not by sight. So anything that's in our psyche is anything that we're looking at carnally. So it's psyching us out. But we look again, when we look again as EVIL, now it becomes LIVE. Live, the tree of life. Now I'm not looking at things in the form, and I'm not sending out a vibration and echoing what I saw. Now I'm being a voice and speaking what I see from the tree of life that's in the midst of the garden. And today you will be with me in paradise. That's where we are right now.
Amen. Yeah, not filtering through this deceptive trance state that we have taken on, literally to dumb us down maximally. You know, that it is literally seeing with your heart. It's opening your heart to the truth, which is exactly what you guys are talking about.
It's also stepping back and observing, and this is taught in Buddhism, it's taught in Christianity, it's wisdom. Stepping back, even no matter how hard the time is that you're going through, and you feel like, oh wow, like, you know, you feel like your faith is wavering. You say, where is God now? To step back and to see these things, but not as the person in them, as somebody who's just a witness to what's really happening. And if you can do that and manage to do that, that's the perception. It's because it all, like you said, it's all perception. It's all how you perceive it. If you perceive it as, I'm supposed to watch this, I'm supposed to observe this, that's all I need to do. Just be.
And recognize that it's actually in process. It's revealing itself.
Right.
You can't see maybe 2 years down the future how this particular trauma in your own life is going to bless you.
Exactly.
It's a musical, mathematical matrix that you're freestyling in.
You're
part of the creative process. You're literally, but the big picture, the unification, the unified field is exactly what you're saying. It corroborates what you're saying, because it is perfect. And then we have now, in our carnal minds, literally put up these filters where we don't see the perfection in our own experiences.
It's perception. It's how we see also the world, how we see each other, how we see, you know, the people close to us. It's all perception. And as long as we can, like, kind of
and projection
as well. That's a big one.
The sun is the projection, and the moon is the reflection of that light. Because when you look at the sun and the moon, right, God is in the universe, and the universe is in God. We're in the universe right now. God is universal. He's dimensional. He's at every place at the same time. Why? Because His Spirit is within each and every one of us. With just like this camera is looking at us, there's a camera within us that's taking the photo of the light of where we are, and is projecting that light outside of ourselves. So when I look into the cosmos, into the world, and I see the sun and the moon, you know, the SUN in the moon, I say, where's that at within me? Well, look at your pupils. Your right eye is the sun, and your left eye is the moon. And it's all has the whiteness around it, which is what compassed by with such a great cloud of witnesses. Come on, we got a new sound.
Check this out, bud. This goes further. When you're looking at geez, that's the shaggy. So when you're looking at the inner and the outer, okay, the inner and the outer worlds. If you look at our neural network circuit of our brains, if you just took an imagery of that, and you look at actually the whole of the universe, and you actually look at matter and dark matter and atoms, like what the whole of the universe, what they can see on the best telescope, it just actually looks like the neural connection of our brain. You look at our irises, actually, like we're inside of our irises. They're like planets. They're like the grid lines of planets. You look inside of everything that we have, and you look inside of, say, just the Earth. You just take it back to the Earth. The Earth is a cell. It's now been known to have consciousness. Inside that cell, we've got 5 billion people or 7 billion people walking around like that. And inside our cell, again, we've got 7 billion people inside a cell, and then we've got hundreds of billions of cells running inside of us. And then inside of that, there's also matter and dark matter, and there's the source of that. So it's really like the outer, it's sort of like the inner is also a reflection of the outer. And then you go out from the world, and then the world also is the world into the solar system, into the spiral. Constant is a spiral of all the divinity, and and you take it out and to even like it looks like into the universe, into like the mind of God. It's like if he's just even it's just a personal feeling that I've just had on that, and you think about how connected is everything from the outer to the inner, and when we as humans actually stop looking so much on the outer and start to realise that it's all happening within us as well. Like it's we science, we're constantly looking out, and trying to understand all this cosmology. We're trying to understand the whole nature of the universe. We can't even figure it out. We got to the moon. Well done. Well done. In an infinite universe, we think that we've created all these solutions, and we've got to the moon. But inside us, again, it goes back to so much, so many cultures which they've been exploring, and what they've had the tools to explore so much is a universe inside of us. Right. So it sort of seems to be what's out is in, what's in is out. And when you start taking that concept that there is no separation again on the from the micro to the macro.
Right.
And it's all a part of the same.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, if we're made in the image of the Creator, then of course all of us would reflect what the universe is, what the universe is made of, what it even looks like. You would look at us, like you said, you would see our brain in the image of the universe if we are made in the image of the Creator.
Yes. And, and we would attend to the spoken word that's in the divine revelation that you're downloading, freestyling, right? See, that's where Yeshua said, beware of every word that comes out of your mouth.